Oh man, this is not good. Canelo Alvarez, Eddie Hearn, working together. Canelo Alvarez, Caleb Plant. Eddie Hearn does not refute Caleb Plant's claims in a recent interview that Canelo Alvarez had a lot of ridiculous demands. Oh, it's not looking good for Canelo, y'all. We gonna talk about it though. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, throw a like on the video. When you guys hit the thumb up, it goes a long way to show and notify others that this may be content that they're looking for. I'm your host, Ego, aka Boxing Ego. This is your one-stop shop for all your boxing needs. Now, Eddie Hearn had an interview. I'll link in the description, as always. And he talked about the failed fight for September 18th. Canelo, payday, you want payday, I know that, and Caleb Plant. And we're going to read some of the quotes. Again, you guys read in its entirety. Link in the description. It broke down, it said, what's it called? 10 thoughts on boxing's Alvarez versus Plant fight and some other topics. But in this video, I really want to focus on the Canelo Caleb Plant, like you guys see in the metadata. Says 10. So what really happened between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant? ESPN reported this week that talks for a September fight between the two were 100% dead. Alvarez is 31 years old. He had hoped to lock in an undisputed unification fight with Plant, who's 29, September 18th on the target date. On Thursday, I asked Eddie Hearn, who works closely with Alvarez, what was the sticking point with the negotiations. But wait, there's more. This is what y'all got to listen to, right? And just so we can't be forgotten and it's understood, I've highlighted it to make it easier, because I know not everyone has 20/20 vision, and I've made videos about this and some people got mad. So I've highlighted it so you can see and I don't like misconstrue or twist up anybody's words. I'm going to read it. It says, well, the easy answer to that is all the terms requested weren't agreeable on various sides. So that much we knew. If the fight is 100%, see, stall tactics right there off the bat. First opening stanza. What went on, Canelo versus Caleb Plant, and Eddie Hearn, a British promoter, reiterates to US media that the terms weren't agreed on various sides. So we already knew that. So that it doesn't even really say nothing. Hearn told Sports Illustrated, quote, we made an offer to PBC to do the fight on DAZN. PBC made an offer to Canelo Alvarez to do the fight on Fox. I discussed their offer with manager and trainer Eddie Reynoso and Canelo. We agreed to move forward with that offer. So what does that tell you? Canelo's last couple fights have been on DAZN. He says they drew first blood and DAZN offered Canelo and Caleb Plant. And then Fox had their own offer because they wanted to bring that to their network. After talking to manager trainer Eddie Reynoso, Eddie Hearn says that Eddie Reynoso and Canelo wanted to further research the Fox offer. So whatever DAZN offered, maybe it wasn't that good on both sides because they were interested in the Fox offer. Let's keep going. We agreed to move forward with that offer. At that point, as my conversation with Canelo went, I'm his promoter. Wait. Canelo said he left Golden Boy. He sued Golden Boy. He sued Oscar De La Hoya, and he broke free from his DAZN pact. But now Eddie Hearn's saying that I'm his promoter. Oh, it's looking bad for Canelo. I thought Canelo's whole goal was to be a free agent. So he freed himself through the reins and the chains and shackles of Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya, who was, holding him back or violating the Ali Act or whatever they were doing. So he sued him. And he said he was going to work with all the promoters. Now, Eddie Hearn, as you guys see on the screen, it says, I'm his promoter, which the great Ego Stradamus previously told you that would be a problem. Let's keep going. It says, I'm on the team, but effectively, I'm not promoting the show because it's a PBC show. So you're on the team, but you're not promoting the show. And the offer was from PBC. Now, just as the great Ego Stradamus predicted, you can start to see the conflict of interest. He says, I'm his promoter, even though Canelo's supposed to be a free agent. I'm on his team, but I'm not promoting the show. Then what are you doing? So how do you get a percentage or a cut of his money if PBC, Tom Brown, Samson Lukowitz, Luis de Cubas, whoever is promoting the show, Al Heyman's advising it, they got their own networks. What is Eddie Hearn really doing? Why is Eddie Hearn even needed here? See, now we're starting to get somewhere. Let's keep going. I'm not promoting the show because it's a PBC show, which I have no problem with, because legacy is more important at this point. But again, you can see the conflict of interest like I told you. Why is Eddie Hearn needed? Listen, let's talk facts. This first paragraph introduces you to what I've been telling you. I discussed the PBC offer with manager and trainer Eddie Reynoso, who is the, say it with me, manager and trainer of Canelo Alvarez. Why is Eddie Hearn, if he has his own manager, who also is his trainer, and they've worked together since the days in Mexico, and they have a bond, and Chepo and Eddie Reynoso take care of Canelo since he was a boy and all that. What is Eddie Hearn doing? So he's telling you he's not promoting the show, and Canelo is supposed to be a free agent right now. Hardcore rapper, but he's glossy. Whoever you think you are right now, right? And his manager and trainer and Canelo discussed it with Eddie Hearn. I'm his promoter. I'm on his team. Oh my gosh, it's looking bad. And y'all wanted to blame Caleb Plant. But to me, this looks like the major problem. You got other people's hands in your pocket, and you got other people in your ear. Quote, now this is good. Now this is good. Hold on. I told you I'm about to cook y'all for the rest of the year. It's over. Quote, and when the contracts came through, it wasn't agreed on both sides. But Caleb Plant says he signed on his portion. So somebody's not telling the truth there. He says it wasn't agreed we're talking about the last contract that deaded the fight. So there could have been a point. Eddie Hearn, this is Eddie Hearn trickery 101. Eddie Hearn doesn't like to speak with specifics. He likes to be ambiguous, because when you're ambiguous, and especially if you have somebody like this reporter who is not going to ask the tough questions because he works for DAZN too, right? Mannix, he works for DAZN, so he's not going to ask these follow-up questions. It allows you to be ambiguous without specifics. Then you don't, that's almost like a white lie, because Caleb Plant already acknowledged that there were some things that he didn't agree to early. But we're talking about what deaded the fight. Eddie Hearn is saying it wasn't agreed on both sides. But after they gave Canelo everything, rematch clause, lion's share of the money, live gate, rights in Mexico and all that stuff, he says after all that was handed to Canelo and he got the red carpet treatment, he signed. So he signed. He told you that. Caleb Plant said, I signed and I got the receipts to show you. But Eddie Hearn's trying to pitch it as if Caleb Plant didn't agree to something. But proper negotiations, that's what usually happens. You see what I'm saying? In negotiations, you say, hey, here's my offer. Hey, I don't like that. What about this? If you ever sold a car or anything, your offer for the car, or you put your car you have a Mustang and you're like, I'm selling it for $6,500. And they're like, what about $5,900? And you're like, nah, that's too low. And then they're like, hey, what about $6,000 even? No tax, cash, haggling, that's negotiations. But by the end of it, Caleb Plant said he signed his portion weeks ago. But Eddie Hearn is not being specific, so he's making it sound like there were issues at the end on both sides. Earlier issues, Caleb Plant already told you that there were some things that both sides didn't agree. That's why you have drafts. Like you send, it's like an essay. You write an essay, you have a rough draft, you proofread it, second draft, final draft, and then you finalize it and do the final paper that you're going to submit to your teacher. It's the same thing with negotiations in boxing, right? Now, peep this. Eddie Hearn says, I've seen the comments from Caleb Plant. At this point, since he says, I've seen what Caleb Plant was saying, Caleb said, I got receipts. If anyone disagrees with me in this, if he's saying I seen what Caleb Plant said, you would just imagine if Caleb Plant was lying, even though he said I had receipts, somebody with a big mouth like Eddie Hearn would use this opportunity after Caleb Plant has already released that information to the public. You would be like, oh, no, you don't. Canelo Alvarez, because it looks bad for Canelo. Based on the Caleb Plant article, it looks bad for Canelo. It looks like he wanted a way out of negotiations for other reasons, right? So you would think that he said, I seen the comments from Caleb Plant. And since this interview was conducted after Caleb Plant had released that information to ESPN, it seems like Eddie Hearn, who just told you I'm his promoter, I'm on his team, I'm privy to the negotiations. You would think Eddie Hearn would counter with something that exonerates or clears Canelo of what Caleb Plant called him, because or what he said his bite was bigger, or his bark was bigger than his bite, and all this other stuff, which we'll get to in a second. And I even have fans in my comment section, because I made videos about all this. They told me, they said, hey, Ego, how can you just believe Caleb Plant? We have to hear both sides of the story. Okay, so this is Team Canelo's side of the story. He says, I heard the comments from Caleb Plant. What does he say next? I'm sure Canelo's got his own opinions of those comments as well. But the important thing is it couldn't be agreed, and it couldn't be agreed for September 18th. Next question. And then that's it. Oh my gosh. It's over for Canelo. It's over for Eddie Hearn. That's it. So Caleb Plant said you did this, this, and this. Your rebuttal? He said, I got receipts. Caleb Plant said, I got receipts. I can prove everything. If anyone has a problem with what I'm saying, and this is how it went down, I got receipts. And then he says, I seen the comments. Hey, I'm sure Canelo got his own opinions of those comments. But the important thing is it wasn't agreed, and it couldn't be agreed for September 18th. Cap. Caleb Plant is 1,000% telling the truth, because you just reiterated what we already know. We know the fight's not happening September 18th. So for you to just say it's not happening September 18th really proves nothing. Fans want to know if what Caleb Plant said to ESPN was true, and you didn't do a good job of rescuing Canelo. He says, all he says is Canelo's got his own opinions on those comments as well. But the important thing is the fight's dead and it's not happening September. We know that, Poindexter. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Now let's get to Caleb Plant. Oh my gosh, I love my job. Smash the like button. Cash App, $Boxingego. Y'all all pay. ESPN, this was the article. Canelo Alvarez, Caleb Plant fight talks break off. Sources say the deal is done. It's dead. I made videos about this. You guys got to subscribe for the latest and greatest. Plant told ESPN he agreed to his side of the deal. Remember, we went over this 2 weeks ago with no arguments about money or stipulations. Even though you have Canelo fans lying and they're saying that Caleb Plant, he couldn't get his 10 million or he wanted more money. That's not, it shows you right there. Caleb Plant said he agreed to his portion of the deal 2 weeks ago. He was ready to go. Right? Then he said Canelo had, it says Plant agreed to it. And there's a whole slew of things that Canelo demanded and Plant would agree to it. It says the Nashville native star fighter said Canelo had other, what does that say? We talked about this. I highlighted it in pink, ridiculous requests. So these are the comments from Caleb Plant that you would think Eddie Hearn would rebuttal. He says one of Canelo's ridiculous demands that was absurd. If I get injured or sick, me, Caleb Plant, then Canelo gets a replacement for the same amount of money, 40 million plus all the additional incentivized perks. But if Canelo were to get sick or injured, then we got to wait for him, Plant added. We're at 7.5 weeks from the fight. We've lost valuable time that we should have spent promoting and doing drug testing for a fight of this magnitude. Oh, wow. Right? I question whether legacy or money is Canelo's real motive. We've been waiting for him to get done with his wedding, shooting TV shows, his golf tournament, and now we have tried to give him everything he wants. You see it in turquoise, and more to make the fight. We try to give him everything he wants and more to make the fight. I'm more than willing and able and ready to fight Canelo Alvarez on any date. Those are the real facts. See, shout out to Kayla. I'm so glad he added this. He says, those are the real facts. If anyone has something to say differently, we have the paperwork to prove it. And you would think that Team Canelo, aka Eddie Hearn, would have a follow-up to counter what makes Canelo look so bad. And he just says, I'm sure Canelo has his own opinion. I mean, that's common sense. We all have an opinion. But the important thing is that it couldn't be agreed, and it couldn't be agreed for September 18th, which was already declared in this initial fight talks with Canelo and Caleb Plant breaks off. I rest my case. Checkmate.